with Joseph Treffler, and together we are going to demonstrate the Scoring Express templates, collection of templates, manuscript papers, house styles, and a whole bunch of other goodies over the next hour. So the first thing I want to say is that if you have already purchased Scoring Express, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And if you haven't done so, then hopefully by the end of this hour, you might be a very happy customer. So just to let you know how the next hour is going to go, for the first 15 minutes or so, I will try to give you a very whiz-bang tour of what Scoring Express is and what it does and how it works. And then I will turn it over to Joseph for the next half hour or so. He will give you a little bit more in-depth uh, tour of the theater and studio templates, which have some really cool tricked out features for use, particularly in that context. And then, hopefully the last 15 minutes or so, we'll have a chance to answer any questions via the chat that is, of course, on this Zoom call. So please feel free to put those comments in there at any time, and I'll try to keep up with them as best I can. And hopefully we'll address them at the end. So yeah, let's just dive right in, and I will share my screen. And before I kind of show you what the Scoring Express is, let me just kind of give you a brief overview of what it is. And whoops. Well, the first thing I want to mention is how to get it. And this is how you get it. And you go to scoringexpress.com. Of course, that will take you to Notation Central, where all of you have already been if you've registered for the webinar. And these are the prices. And if you go there today, if you haven't purchased it already, use that code webinar for 10% off. Note that it is webinar and not wine bar. The wine bar comes later. But please feel free to use that with our compliments. So yeah, let me go back to the first page. So Scoring Express is a collection of professional templates, manuscript papers, house styles, high quality music text fonts for Sibelius. This is really something I wanted to do for a long time. Of course, as many of you probably do, you have your own templates in use in Sibelius or whatever notation software that you might work in. And this really came into focus with Sibelius's new importing feature over the last couple of years. And it was something that I decided that, okay, I'm just going to put this out there with all the bells and whistles that I try to put in there, all the tweaks to the settings, and let people make use of it and enjoy it. So it's one installer. It installs a whole bunch of things, and I'll show you exactly how that works. But I want you to know that this is not, these are the templates that I use, functionally speaking, in my own work. So in terms of, what's included, you get a whole bunch of fonts, and these are very high quality music fonts. You get the Norfolk and Pori fonts, which are kind of our flagship fonts. Of course, those were the fonts that were designed by primarily Daniel Spreadbury and the team at Steinberg for use in Dorico. They released it under an open license, and we took it and made them compatible with Sibelius. And in order to do that, you kind of have to create a suite of fonts. Not to get into the weeds of how that works, but they work extremely well. They look great. If you do use Dorico and Sibelius, this might actually help you get a more consistent house style between the two, which is really cool. More and more people using Dorico, but also still using Sibelius as well. Figurado, which is a figured bass font, and then you kind of see the kind of the previews there with Academico, Petaluma Script, Gothic. Academico and Petaluma Script, again, those are designed by Steinberg for use in Dorico, but those are text fonts. We also have a Palatino equivalent and some others. The main thing about these fonts I want you to know is that these are all freely, you can freely distribute them. They are under what's called an open font license. And this was really important because, occasionally you do need to share files. As you all know, you need to collaborate with someone else. And if they don't have those fonts, and then the fonts are kind of proprietary and you think, should I share them? Should I not? And they're, legally, you're not allowed to. So I just wanted to remove that impediment. So if they have Sibelius, Obviously they have the fonts that come with Sibelius. You can share those fonts with them as well. So that's really important. And finally, you have these angled / chord symbol fonts that Bernie Cosentino developed, and they're just amazing. This is really the only way truly to get true angled chord / symbol look in Sibelius with these three fonts. And they're just amazing. And I have to say, it was a real team effort to develop Norfolk and Pori. You know who you are, who helped with it. A lot of credit is due to a lot of people, and the credits are listed in the documentation. You can read about all the amazing people that worked on it. Okay, so what's included? You get 9 templates, at least per package, per chamber, per theater and studio, per jazz. You get manuscript papers corresponding to the templates, and you get house styles corresponding to the templates. So there's different ways to use Scoring Express. And with the house styles, you also get at least 1 or more parts per house style as well. A parts house style per package, rather. A whole host of plugins. Those were developed by Bob Zawalek, and he very graciously allowed us to include those in the installer. And you get at least 1 example file, sometimes more per package, to kind of show you how the whole thing works. And really, what is the essence of Scoring Express? It's the look, it's the features, it's the settings, the text styles, the engraving rules, kind of going really almost dialogue by dialogue and figuring out all this stuff. I know a lot of you read scoring notes. It is kind of like the sum total of every blog post that I ever wrote on scoring notes, and kind of put that knowledge into these templates. This is just a brief example like of the lines dialogue. You can kind of see some of all the extra goodies. I know Joseph will get into that a little bit more, especially with some of the stuff he's done with instruments, and it's really awesome. One thing I want to mention real quickly, when you install it, we are not part of the Apple development certification process, at least not yet. So you might get a message that says, hey, this is not an identified developer. It's very easy to just get around that. You basically, on Mac, you just right-click the package or control-click it. Windows, you can just say yes. You may have to disable some antivirus software temporarily if you use that. It's not a big deal. It's just we haven't gone through that formal process of getting that installed. And really, it's just documents and settings that are installed on your computer. There's no, executable files that would actually control your computer. So, it says it's an unidentified developer. I'm identifying myself. This was created on my computer. So, and Joseph's. So, no worries there. All right. So yeah, again, just before we go, one more shout out on how to get it. This is how you do it. Use that coupon code webinar and hopefully you can get a little extra discount off of that. Okay, so look, when you download each of these rather, you'll get a package, and each of these look kind of similar to each other. I'll actually install all 3 of them because the process goes super fast, but you get both Mac and Windows installations. If you have both Mac and Windows, by the way, yes, you can use it on both. Your license basically covers you for any computer that you are working on. So, obviously multiple people need to purchase their own license, but no worries. You have a Mac desktop, Windows laptop, you can install it on both. You get a whole bunch of documentation. I definitely encourage you to read the documentation. Like I said, the ASC chord symbols, they're super easy to use, and yet they are super powerful, a whole bunch of extra features in there. Definitely read we took some time to put the documentation together. Please read that as well in case you have any questions. But look, the installer, it's kind of a very simple thing. You've all gone through this. I don't need to tell you how to run an installer. Definitely read every last bit of that license and just hit install. And the reason I'm showing you this is because I want to show you where some of these files are being installed. And you'll start seeing here, there's a new folder here called Scoring Express, which is installed in your documents /scores. You can see it's in your user folder, documents, scores, Scoring Express. Same on Mac and Windows. This is kind of where Sibelius by default will install score files. So this is where you can look for it. You got the chamber, you've got the jazz. I'm going to just run that installer real quickly. And again, what's happening behind the scenes is that it's installing all those plugins, it's installing those fonts, it's installing those house styles, those manuscript papers. So the only thing that you'll see evidently is the templates that are in this file, but behind the scenes, it's doing all of that in the appropriate folders, so you don't have to worry about putting your plugins in a particular folder or anything like that. It all does it for you behind the scenes. So that's the way that works. And so let me now, I'm just going to share my, I don't think I'm going to use any sound, but I've just shared my computer sound in case I need to. I'm just going to show you how, we would get, a file into one of these templates. You can work in a number of different ways. I have the big band template. What I would suggest is probably, make a copy of this in whatever work folder that you're working on. I'm just going to kind of copy it to the desktop here, and maybe I will call it, score example, something like that. That way, these files kind of remain your pristine templates. If you end up overwriting it, no problem. You can always reinstall the package again. Just make sure you back up. Okay. So look, let me open up Sibelius. Oh, the one thing I should mention, of course, is that when you do run these installers, you want to make sure that Sibelius is not running. And if it is, it's no big deal. Just make sure that you restart Sibelius after running the installer, because what will happen is Sibelius will need to load up, these support files. And again, I won't show you this right now, but you can see what has happened once I ran that installer. In addition to all the default templates that, or manuscript papers, technically I should say, in Sibelius, you also have Scoring Express Chamber, Scoring Express Jazz, and Scoring Express Theater. Whole lot of extra really cool templates. And the benefit of starting this way, of course, is that you can change instruments, do all that sort of stuff that you normally would in the manuscript paper process. For now, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually just going to start opening the template file. So let's open that up. Of course, that's what we want to see here. And go to the score. This is kind of our blank slate, so to speak, right? This is the thing that we want to, work with. And of course, what we want to do is bring music into it. If you're just composing music, you can compose right into the file like any other Sibelius file. Just start writing. All the parts are pre-configured. They're all there for you. But if you have an existing file, then you'll want to bring a file in that way. And what I'm going to show you is a source file that I have provided courtesy of Ben Colgiovanni. I don't know if he's on the call, but if he is, hi, Ben. And it was great because he sent me this file, and this was completely unsolicited. And I said, hey, let's bring this into Scoring Express and see what happens. And it worked great. And he gave me kind permission to use it in our seminar today. So what this is basically, this is an unformatted file. He actually created this in Finale, exported it to Music XML, and then just opened it up in Sibelius using the default XML settings. So it's completely unformatted. You can see obviously the parts are unformatted, but we want to get this looking good. You don't have to have the file open, by the way. I just wanted to kind of show you what it looked like, kind of the before and after. But the way to get this file into your Scoring Express template, or really any Sibelius template, is go to the File, Import area. And you can open it up in your file browser, or, this is kind of neat. You can actually just drag it in to the window there, and it pops up right away. So what's happening here? This is kind of how Sibelius brings in files in kind of the new way of importing. And like I said, the process is broadly similar, whether you're talking about Music XML, Sibelius files, MIDI. Some differences, depending on the nature of the source file, but this is broadly speaking how it works. First thing I'm going to do is just click auto assign. It's kind of the I'm feeling lucky way of doing things. And Sibelius is trying to match up what it sees in the source file, which is on the left, with what's in the template, which is on the right. And you kind of see it got some of it right, some of it not so great. What's happening with the trumpets? Let's just kind of take a look at that real quickly. It's trying to put all 4 trumpets onto the first trumpet line, which you may actually want. This is called a many-to-one relationship. You may actually, in the importing process, want this. Like, say, if you're trying to do some, condense into one staff, or you can also explode. Like I could say, if I had a flutes 1 and 2 staff, and I wanted to explode that into separate flute 1 and flute 2 parts, you can assign it that way. So this is kind of really neat feature of Sibelius. And this is kind of the advantage of just like bringing something into like importing a house style. So this is really neat. But we're going to fix this up a little bit. I would recommend that you uncheck generate previews so you don't, it doesn't recalculate every single time. And look, I'm just going to go real quickly here and assign the correct instruments so that we know what we're doing. And let's see, trombone 1, 2, and 3, that all looks good. This should be bass trombone. And we should say vibraphone here. Okay, so this is a case where I don't have vibraphone in the template, but I do have a voice line. So temporarily, I'm going to put it in the voice part, and you'll see what I do in just a moment to kind of reconcile that later. Bass into the bass part, and drums into the drum part. And that's basically what happens. And what happens is I'm going to, generate the preview one last time. Sibelius is bringing in the entire, not only the music, but obviously, as you can see, the entire structure of the piece: time signatures, rehearsal marks, repeat bars, key signatures, tempo marks, system objects, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like ingesting all that stuff and putting it into the template. So I'm going to say import. And you can already see this is looking a lot better. Let's make it look even better than it does right now. So like I said, the voice part, I'm just going to triple click that, do an instrument change. Let's just, make that a proper vibe part. And for good measure, let's put it in the correct order, move it down. And, look, you could also bracket it the correct way. I'll take that bracket off, that brace off, and bracket them together. Of course, I'm using Notation Express for that. And let's see, the next thing I would want to do is probably make it 8 bars per system. I debated whether or not to make that a default setting in the template, kind of a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other thing. It's very easy to do. This piece I happen to know is regular form, 8 bars per system. That's under your layout area, 8 bars. And you can start seeing that is kind of laying out really nicely. And yeah, it looks good. Extra bar at the end, just get rid of that. A couple other things that I would want to do to really tidy this up even further. There's a plugin that's called Transfer Score Info that comes with Scoring Express. And Joseph will go about telling you about this a little bit in just a moment, but it basically takes the wildcards from the score info area and transfers them. If you have a lot of them, this can save you a lot of time. I'll just show you how this runs. You say transfer score info, you run the plugin. Couldn't be easier. You say load score info, switch to your source file, basically run it again, and say transfer save score info. And what that does, if you had a subtitle, if you had a lyricist, it would include those as well. But now I have those. They drop right into place. Of course, if I don't want that extra information, I can just get rid of it. It's pretty easy to do. What else would I do? A couple other things, and then I'll throw it over to Joseph. There's another plugin that's called Reset Spacing and Score in Parts. Despite its name, it actually does a couple other things. It actually resets the design and resets the position. Of course, you could do that manually here in the appearance area, but that really takes advantage of those nice Scoring Express defaults, which we've taken so much time to work with. So if you want to reset the spacing all at once, just run that plugin, and it's called Reset Spacing in Scoring's Parts. And like I said, it actually does all those things, and it runs on the dynamic parts as well, which is really nice. Saves you kind of an extra step of doing that in every single part. And it's just taking a second, to kind of cycle through all the parts. There it goes. And when I open up the part in just a moment, you'll see how nice the part looks. And you kind of see, if you kind of look carefully, things kind of started popping into place even more. And, this is looking really good. Of course, there are a few things that we could probably tweak, but look, I think, the proof is in the pudding. If you look at the initial score, and again, like I said, the goal is to make the music look as good as it sounds. This is great music, and we want it to look as, the look to reflect it. This is the original, this is brought into our Scoring Express template. You might find a couple things just based on the source file you need to clean up, like these slash marks. No big deal, but things are looking real good. Let's take a quick look at the part, one of the parts anyway. And again, same deal here. What I would do and I'm pretty confident that these are 4-bar phrases. What I would probably do is go to parts, part appearance. This is the multiple part appearance for those of you coming from Sibelius 6. All parts. And I would just say layout. I'm just going to say auto breaks. Let's say every 4 bars for every part in the score. And just like that, I've got a 4-bar, system breaks, automatic system breaks. This this will be fixed in a update to Scoring Express. Those of you that know about bar numbers, the challenge of getting these to display, to not have the group bar numbers display correctly. They either all push down, or they look like this. Oh, Joseph, give me 1 minute. I have to show this because I'm very proud of the fix here. But you know what? This is the example of the type of thing that we looked at every single dialogue, and it just, and fixing these things. I won't even go into why these numbers work right now. I'm just gonna trust me. They work. These settings work. And look, when I do that, you can see that bar number, popped out, but it left all these others alone. It's making room for, any of these ties that are happening while leaving everything else in place. It's pushing the dynamics down. So look, this is the type of thing that you would expect, the program to do. And we have finally just gone through the dialogues and make it work, kind of bend it to our will. And so you don't have to. So we will include that along with some other stuff in an update, maybe in the next week or two. Finally, look, I can't help myself. I always have to tweak. Even this is a demo, I know, but I have to make it look right, So look, this is actually looking really good already. I would probably just put that into the one page, make that look that. Oh, the final plugin, of course, position rehearsal marks. Well, I'll let Joseph is going to demonstrate how that works. So I'll throw it over to him. Basically, what that does is move all these rehearsal marks to the left-hand side of the system. So you can kind of see that's how Scoring Express works in a nutshell. You saw in kind of no time flat, we went from basically this to looking like this. And like I said, this was an unsolicited file. It just came to me and it works. So Joseph, I am going to throw it over to you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Take it away.
All right. Thank you, Philip. Can everyone hear me? Philip, can you hear me?
I can. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. I'm going to go through some of the specific features of the Scoring Express theater templates. And what I want to emphasize is that they really, really speed up my workflow when I'm doing, when I'm copying musical theater parts. So what I need from the templates is basically I need templates that allow me to get really clear parts and make them really, really fast. Because when you're working in theater, you just never have enough time. You're always racing to the next deadline, which is, every day. So in the theater template suite, you're going to get 9 templates. You get a pit orchestra template, 2 versions of an expanded rock band and strings template. One is landscape score, one is not. One's portrait. You're going to get 2 versions of a rock band template, 2 versions of piano vocal. One is with a serif font and one is a sans serif font, and 2 versions of lead sheet templates. And in all 9 of those templates, there are just a ton of customized features. I mean, in addition to all the things that Philip talked about in the jazz template, there's a whole host of other features that we've added for the theater templates. I don't have time to go into every single feature that we added, but I will show you the ones that I think are maybe the most important. So I'm going to talk about the file info and associated wildcards with the file info. I'm going to talk about how we have set up our linked parts. I'm going to talk about some of the custom text styles that we added, some of the custom lines that we added, and finally, some custom instrument definitions for reed instruments, which I think is maybe my favorite part. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. Oh, no update. And here is one of the default templates. This is the expanded rock band and strings template. And this is what it's going to look like when you open it just as it is. So I'm going to talk a bit about the file info and wildcards. So you'll notice that in the template, there's a whole bunch of placeholder text, and all the placeholder text is in parentheses. You'll see it here, title, the song number, show title, see it in the lyricist, composer, arranger. So all of these are linked to wildcards. So if I double click here, if I click yes, it's going to take me to the file tab, but for right now, I'm going to click no, and it's going to show me that wildcard. So this is the title wildcard here. If I do the same thing over here, no, it's going to show me here is the lyricist, wildcard, composer, arranger. Okay, so now I'm going to head over into the file tab, and you can see here are all of those placeholder text items from the score. So title uses the title wildcard is here, composer, lyricist, arranger, copyist. We are actually using the artist wildcard for show title. You don't have to use the wildcards for what they say. You can use them for whatever you want. So we used the artist wildcard for show title. There's copyright. We use the opus number wildcard for the song number. And we use the year of composition wildcard for the revision date. So the advantage to the wildcards are if you update this info in the file tab, they will appear wherever that wildcard appears. So I'm going to go ahead and add some bars to this. Let's see. Let's add 15 bars. So we have a couple of pages here. So I'm going to go ahead and update this title wildcard to something in the file tab. This is a song. And when I go back to the score, you'll see that this now has updated to the title I put into that file tab. And this title wildcard also appears in the header. So if I double click here, no, you'll see that the title wildcard is also here in this header. So wherever that wildcard appears, you're going to get this title. And it may appear in other places as well. It may appear on title pages, it appears in the parts. So it just means that when I input this information, I don't have to go hunting through the file and update it in every single place. I know that if I change it in the file tab, it's going to go wherever I need it to go, and I don't have to worry about did I miss one of these? It's just all where I need it to go, and that speeds up my workflow a whole bunch. There's one other wildcard I just want to mention that we've added. I'm going to open up one of the default parts here. In the parts, in this header, you'll see if I open up, I'm going to click no here, you'll see that also instrument changes is beneath part name. And this one you can change on a part by part basis to show, exactly that. You can use it for instrument changes. So for example, in this guitar part, I'm going to change it in the file tab of the guitar part rather than in the score, which means it's going to apply only to the guitar part. Ooh, I'm going to say electric. They're going to play electric guitar. And you'll see now electric has appeared, but it's specific to this guitar part. So if I open up one of the other parts, let's say bass, nothing appears because under the file tab for the bass, there's nothing under instrument changes. So you can do this differently for different parts. So for example, you can also use this in your piano vocal, say, I want to put my characters in here. So I can do under instrument changes for the piano vocal, character 1. And now character 1 is going to appear. Okay. I also want to talk a bit about how we've set up the linked parts. What you should know is that by default in these templates, there are some hidden staves, and the hidden staves you can see are where this light dotted blue line is. And that's indicating that there is a staff hidden with focus on staves, which is in the layout tab. So you'll see right now that focus on staves is turned on. It's highlighted yellow up here. And when I click on it, it turns off, and some new staves have appeared in the score. So you'll see that the cue staff has appeared, and also down here, the rehearsal piano grand staff has also appeared. I can turn focus on staves back on. Oh, no, I was clicking, had this file, the staff highlighted. No highlights, I can turn it on. Oh no. Sorry, 1 second, select all. I'm gonna turn off the staves I don't need. And those staves have gone away, okay? All right, can turn it on and off. So the way that we've set this up is that the cue staff over here is linked, as well as the keyboard 1 staff is linked to the piano conductor part. So I'm going to swap over to the piano conductor part, or keyboard 1 conductor in this particular file. And you'll see here are those staves, okay? Cues and keyboard 1. Back to the score. The rehearsal piano, on the other hand, is linked to the piano vocal part. So I'm going to swap over to the piano vocal part, and here's the rehearsal piano staff. Now, it's up to you whether or not you want to use the linked piano vocal part. You can instead, there's the separate piano vocal template that's included in the suite. You may want to use that instead. That's up to you. I won't get into pros and cons of that right now. And then all 4 vocal staves here, we have solo vocals, ensemble vocals. Those are linked to both the piano vocal and the keyboard conductor parts. So any material you put into the vocal lines will appear in both of those parts. All right, I'm going to swap over now to a file with some notes in it. Here we go. And here is something that's very similar to one of the example files that comes with the theater templates. But you can see that there's already a whole bunch of notes in there. I've already filled in all this, the file info. If I double click here and go to the file tab, you'll see that all this info is filled in. And it's, that again, that's appearing in the headers, footers, and in a whole bunch of places. I have deleted some of the instruments from the original template just because this particular orchestration doesn't use those instruments. So I got rid of them and then renamed my staves accordingly. I renamed, keyboard 1 is now just keyboard, guitar 1 has become guitar, violin 1 has become violin, because I only have one of each of those, for this particular song. And I also added a few system breaks. In the theater templates, we have set auto breaks on by default. So if I go to layout, auto breaks, you'll see that in the score, it's every 8 bars. The parts are every 4 bars. So page 1 has, I put in a system break after the first 4 bars just because I want this to be laid out by a phrase, which is what we do in theater. All right, I'm going to talk now about some of the custom text styles that we added for the theater templates. If you go into the text dropdown, you'll see that we've added things like character name, dialogue, instrument name, PC cues, keyboard patch change, open pages. This is for foldouts, page turn warnings, vocal cues, a whole bunch in here. There's even more if you go into the system text menu. There's bar number change warnings and a whole bunch of other ones. And then if you dig even deeper and go into the blank page text styles, you'll find that there's a whole bunch of text styles that are specifically for blank pages, so that when you're adding leader pages or blank pages in the middle of a part for page turn reasons, all those text styles are already there. You don't have to recreate them every time. And again, just makes my life easier, makes my workflow faster, that I don't have to make those each time. I'm just going to show you one little detail about one of these text styles. Just, these are the kind of details we considered here. So here we go. In measure 37, you'll see that there's some instrument labels here, and these are using the instrument name PC cues text style. And so is this one down here. And you'll notice that even though this cue staff is a smaller staff size, we've set it to 75% of regular staff size in the part here, and the keyboard staff is a full size at 100%, this text style, the PC cues, appear the same size in both, because this particular text style is set to be an absolute size value. Just so that, when your music director is going through this part and they're looking for all those cues that they need to cue in the band, that text style is appearing the same size in the same way, no matter what staff it's attached to. So, I think that just makes their life a little bit easier. I'm going to head back to the score. So the great thing about using all these different text styles is that sometimes there are text styles that we want to see consistently in all the parts, but we never want to see them in the score. So one of the things you can do is you can, once you've formatted all your parts, added all those text styles in there with the correct info, I don't have to worry on a case-by-case basis of remembering to show only in the parts and hide in the score and keeping track of all that info. I can just type it in, forget about it until the end of the process, and then highlight the whole score, go to the Home tab in the Advanced filter, go to Text and Text here, and then I can just grab those specific text styles that I know I only want to see in the parts, select them, and then I can go to Hide or Show, Show in Parts, and all those text styles automatically are now hidden in the score. So you'll see if I click on the first bar of the guitar part, you'll see this open 3 pages, and it's a little hard to see, but if I zoom in, open 3 pages is hidden. But when I go over to the guitar part, open 3 pages is there, and it's visible for the guitarist because they have to see it. So again, that's one little thing that makes my life much, much easier. All right, I'm going to move to some of the custom lines that we've added for the theater templates. If I open up the lines menu, just hit L, you'll see there are a whole bunch in here. There are a whole bunch of phrase markings, solo, toms, fill, big fill, guitar cue, keyboard cue, patch change. There's a lot going on in here. So I encourage you to open up this menu and explore all the things that we've added. I'm going to show you one of the cool things about some of these phrase markings. So in theater, we do use phrase markings, but they don't necessarily mark the number of repeat signs you have, they mark the actual number, the bar number in the phrase. And they can appear over these repeat bar markings, but they can also appear over slash markings. So we've created this custom line so that they can appear the same way everywhere. And the cool thing about them is that once you add them to your bar, no matter what material is in the bar, no matter how wide the bar gets, that number will stay centered in the bar. So that 4, no matter how wide that bar gets, the 4 is going to be in the right place. And that will happen over here as well with the slash notation. No matter what happens, that 4 is staying put. Okay, so I don't have to remember, every time there's a change to the material in that bar, maybe there's a bunch of 16th notes now. I don't have to worry about manually repositioning that number. It's going to be in the right place no matter what. And then I'm going to show, that's just for fun. I'm going to add a keyboard patch change, even though it doesn't make any sense because there isn't a keyboard patch change in this particular place. But I think for people who are familiar with theater scores, this symbol will be very familiar. So there it is, very theater specific thing going on in here. I'm gonna now swap over to an unedited guitar part, which I've added to this file. And the way I did this is I just created a new guitar staff, imported the correct house style for the theater parts, and then copied all the material from the edited guitar part into here, reset position on everything. So these are all default positions. So basically, once you have the correct house style in, this is what you would see with no edits whatsoever. So, there's some small adjustments that you need to make here. I'm going to go ahead and lay out this part by phrase, because that's, again, what we do in theater. So I'm going to add some system breaks in here. One over here. I know that the guitar is playing a lot here, so there's not a lot of good places for page turns, but there is this multi-rest over here in measure 87, 88. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that there's going to be a good page turn for the guitarist there. And then let's even out these systems a little bit so that they're spread out a little bit more evenly. So I'm going to add, again, some more page breaks. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Maybe we want, I don't know, a little bit more space at the top here. So I'm going to open up the document options with Command D. Let's change this first staff. Let's give it a little bit more space. All right. Now you may notice that, hey, there's no good page turn after page 1, which in normal circumstances would be a problem, but fold outs are perfectly fine. So I'm going to go ahead and let the guitarist know that this is going to be a fold out. And I'm going to use that custom text style, which is under staff text, open pages. And I'm going to put in open 3 pages. And you'll notice that by default, this text style is already quite large, it's bold, and it's in this big box here. So the guitarist is never going to miss that. They're going to make sure that this is a fold out page. And then here at the end of page 3, I also want to let the guitarist know that they, in fact, do have 2 bars after the page turn. So no reason to panic. I'm going to, again, staff text style and page turn warning. And I'm just going to put in here 2 bars so that they know they have 2 bars after this to turn the page. And I want this to be right aligned with this bar so that it appears at the end of the bar. So I'm going to run the plugin on this text style, align objects to bar line. Run the plugin here. I want it to be at the right end of the bar. Click OK. And you'll see that this now jumps to where I want it to be. And this text style is also set to be right aligned. So when if this bar has more notes in it or changes for whatever reason, and say it gets stretched, that is going to stick to the end of the bar. So again, I don't have to worry about coming in here and every time something changes, repositioning this. It's just going to be where I want it to be, no matter what. Again, big time saver for me. Okay. Philip mentioned I was going to go through position rehearsal marks, that plugin. So we're going to run that now. You'll see some of these rehearsal marks are not ideal. I want them to be left aligned with the left side of the staff. So I'm going to highlight this whole part and run position rehearsal marks, that plugin. And again, this ships with the Scoring Express templates. I know that in this particular file, I don't have any 1 character or 3 character rehearsal marks, so I'm not going to worry about those settings. But I do know that this setting here, I predetermined that -1.1 is going to give me a pretty good result for this particular score. So I'm going to run that. And you'll see that my rehearsal marks have now jumped and are nice and left aligned exactly where I want them to be. Here's 139, 55, 71, oh, I missed one over here because I didn't put in the system break. All right, let's do that quick. All right, and 93, and we just gotta make sure this last bar is also in the right spot. All right. So Philip already mentioned the great new bar number setting. So you'll see there are some collisions here with bar numbers. If I zoom in here, you'll see the 72 sort of crammed in there, 74. But when those new bar number settings come out in the next update, you won't have to deal with any of those things. It's going to solve the problem in like 95% of cases. So it's going to do most of the work that you need it to do. And you'll see there is a little bit of cleanup left to do here. For me, it's probably another few minutes of cleanup on this part. And once I do those things, it doesn't look bad the way it is, but go into some of the details, and I'm going to swap over to the fully edited guitar part here. And after just a few more minutes of work, you're going to get something that looks like this. I'm going to zoom out a bit so you can see the whole thing. And hey, it's not a ton of work, and this to me is a nice clean part. If I were to put this in front of a guitarist, I would think that guitarist would be a pretty happy guitarist. One more thing I'm going to show you just in this part. I'm going to highlight the whole thing, and I'm going to go to the layout tab, and I'm going to just hit reset space above and reset space below. And you'll notice that absolutely nothing happened because all of these staves are in their default position with the template defaults. So I just want to emphasize, I didn't manually adjust any of these staves. I didn't have to drag anything around. This is just the defaults of the template working really nicely for what I need them to do. Okay. Last thing that I'm going to show you, I'm going to switch over to a different file here. And I'm going to go and show you the custom instruments that we've added to all the templates. And this is specifically for reed instruments, which again, I think is probably my favorite. So in musical theater, I think it's really helpful if your staff labels for reed parts, you'll see them up here. I'm going to zoom in a bit. Include which reed player is playing the particular instrument. So you'll see that you have reed 1, reed 2, reed 3, reed 4, and then it's followed by the specific instrument that they're playing. And that's also on in the staff labels of all subsequent systems. So, it can be a big pain if every time a reed player changes instrument, you have to remember, oh, did I add the correct reed number for every single instrument change, and then go back through the whole thing and make sure that, did I miss anything? So we have custom instrument names. Let's say, I'm going to show you an example. in measure 3, let's say the read 1 player is going to switch from flute to clarinet. So I'm going to do an instrument change here. And I'm going to type in read 1. And you'll see all these options for read 1 pop up. And I'm going to choose clarinet and B flat. Read 1, clarinet and B flat. I'm going to say OK. And Sibelius is going to do what we want. We're going to get the instrument label for clarinet. But then also, here on the second system, we have read 1 clarinet. So that R1 label is automatically added to subsequent systems for all the read 1 instruments. I can show you another example. Let's say read 2 in measure 3 is going to switch to alto sax. And I'm going to, again, add an instrument change here. And I'm going to type in read 2 this time because we're dealing with the read 2 player. And I'm going to select alto sax, read 2 alto sax, click OK. All right. And then again, you'll see that Sibelius has given us the alto sax label at that instrument change, but also on the next system, we have R2 alto sax. Huge time saver for me, you know, one big thing that I don't have to worry about anymore. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and unshare my screen now. There we go. And just a couple takeaways. So again, for me, all these predefined textiles and custom lines that we've added to the templates, for me, equal speed. I can do my job way faster if I know that all these things are already there in the file for me. And I didn't make any changes, you know, when I was doing that new guitar part, I didn't make any changes to the page or staff margins. I didn't change any of the positioning of any of the info on the first page of music or to the headers or footers. And I didn't even do any manual adjusting of staves beyond just adding system breaks and page breaks. All those defaults in the template just work the way they are so that I can do my job well and really quickly. All right, I'm going to pass it back to Philip.
That was awesome. Thanks so much, Joseph. And I think you can tell the care and detail, level of detail that Joseph put into creating those theater and studio templates. You know, we came out with the chamber and jazz ones, and I knew right away, I said, I have to go to Joseph to get these pushed out to the theater on the theater side, and he added some really amazing features. So just a few questions we had in the chat. Actually, a couple things I want to show you real quickly, and we'll just have time for a couple of questions. First of all, I see Bernie on the call, Bernie Cosentino. Folks, I can't stress enough I don't know how many hours you put into this, Bernie, making these chord symbols look right. But you know, he took the work of basically the Dorico team, and then Jeff Kellum was responsible for porting the you know, the Pori of the Petaluma font into Pori. And then what he did with these, you know, these angled slash chords, I mean, you know, it's just like, you know, how often, how long have we waited for something like this? You just drop them in and they just work. You know, you don't have to do anything. I won't even go into the advanced features, but just suffice it to say, you know, having you won't get this in the Sibelius default fonts. It doesn't happen. He really made this, he engineered these fonts within an inch of their life, and just, I know Pixel was too small for him to do. And we include all these to make sure that people can enjoy them in their scores. And look, if you want the look of the you know, the non-angled slash, all you have to do is go to you can do it a couple different ways. You can go to text styles, or you can go to engraving rules. You can go to chord symbols and edit text style. And it's just a simple toggle. You can just switch to the ASL, which is, again, it's probably not even worth getting into what that is, but you can also just switch it to the normal Pori chords font without the slash feature. And, you know, they look, you know, more in the default Sibelius way. But just, you know, if you have them in your score and you just switch them back to the ASC, that's the only thing you need to do to make these just look so beautiful. So thank you, Bernie, for figuring that out, and really thousands of users are benefiting from your expertise. There was a question about, you know, can I just use this if I don't have that importing feature? can I do it in using a house style? And the answer is yes. It would work a little differently. And I'll show you just very quickly what that would look like. Again, I'll use Ben's score as an example. This was his source score. And, look, if I were to do the importing feature of Scoring Express, now this is, remember in that installation I showed you at the top of the show, top of the webinar, this is what you'll find in your house styles area. All these house styles are now there for you. And in this case, I'll choose the SE Jazz Big Band Pori landscape and also the document setup. And now, of course, it looks like that because it is respecting the original settings of the file. But remember, if I reset spacing in score and parts, that will kind of take care of all that for me. And if I say unlock the format, and if I just let it run and kind of do its thing and be patient and have it run on all the parts, which it'll do in just a moment, you'll start seeing things pop into place, very quickly. So that is kind of the, if I was importing the house style as opposed to importing the, file into the template, the disadvantage here is, of course, you'll still have to do a little more cleanup, getting these things, getting them to look right. These staves, because this was an XML file, this came in as kind of a weird XML staff, and that's why you see the dynamics above the staff. That's just because it was generated from Finale that way. And of course, you don't have the headers that you would get in a regular Scoring Express template like that, which are already pre-populated for you. But yeah, by and large, you still get a lot of the benefits just importing that house style. And this is also good. Like, a lot of people are asking, can I just, use this in my existing scores without the templates? And again, yeah, you can import a house style, that maybe broadly matches the score that you have. If you have an orchestral score and you want to, make it look like a, if I have the score and I say, for whatever reason, I want to make it look like an engraved score, I can import one of the other templates, pick one that is the closest, the chamber quintet, uncheck document setup, because of course, we're not going to change the document setup. But yeah, and now I'm getting kind of a more engraved look to the score. So it's really, really, it's flexible. So let me see if I can stop the share. And
I'm gonna also jump in just.
Yeah, go ahead, Joseph. Yeah, we're almost out of time.
And add, if you're on a previous version of Sibelius, there's also the plugin Impose Sketch onto Template, which can do a very similar thing to the Sibelius import feature. So if you don't have that import feature, that's a great plugin. I think that's a plugin by Tom Curran.
That's right, Tom Curran. Yeah, who also, he helped us with the, kind of testing these out. So his input is in there as well. There's one other question before we go. Somebody's asking about a tutorial, and yes, I do have an 11-minute tutorial video, and you do get a link to this. It's publicly available, but you get a link to this when you get the the templates. There it is, right there. So you can watch that. Again, like I said, the documentation is really extensive. So yeah, in answer to the questions, the tutorial videos, hopefully there will be more coming, but that 11-minute tutorial should answer some questions. And yeah, thank you. Look, we're out of time. I want to respect people's time. Again, the last thing I want to just mention, of course, is that if you do order it today, if you don't have it already, you can get 10% off. Just go to scoringexpress.com and use the code webinar, and feel free to use them. So listen, everybody, thank you, Joseph, for all your time and expertise. Thanks to everyone for coming. This is the first time we've done something like this, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of great, seeing a lot of familiar faces. And I know somebody said, I'll answer it today. I'll order it today if my question was addressed. Look, in the chat, I'm trying to find the questions. Email at support@notationcentral.com, if I didn't get to your question, and I'll try to, help you out. All right, everybody. So long, and hello and goodbye from New York City.